Welcome to Insights. I'm Adam Rivers.
And I'm Sarah Collins. In this episode, we'll reflect carefully on the Qur'an, verse by verse, focusing on wording, context, and coherence.
Exactly.
And just to give a brief overview, Insights is a journey into the profound layers of revelation. Last time on Insights, we explored the ultimate state of divine hospitality. We saw how the first humans were granted absolute freedom and abundance in paradise with just one single boundary, which was a specific tree.
Right.
It was basically the calm before the storm of human free will.
That is a perfect way to put it. And that brings us to the verse we're focusing on today. So let me read the translation of the verse, Al-Baqarah 36. But Satan caused them to slip out of it and remove them from that condition in which they had been. And we said, go down, all of you, as enemies to one another, and you will have upon the earth a place of settlement and provision for a time.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So my opening question to you, the listener, is this. Have you ever wondered what exactly happens in the human mind in the exact fraction of a second before making a life-altering mistake?
That is a really intense question to start with.
It is. But what if I told you this isn't just a historical recap? What if it's a real-time mirror of our own minds?
Well, when we look at this specific verse detailing this monumental slip from paradise, how should we approach it? Because it feels so massive, you know?
Right, it feels distant.
Exactly. Like, how do we stop it from just feeling like ancient history?
So, deep reflection on the Quran opens these incredible horizons to understand our own existence. This verse actually deconstructs human psychology.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it marks the major transition from absolute stillness and, free bliss to constant movement, to individual responsibility and struggle. It summarizes that journey from innate obedience to the sheer complexities of free choice.
I see. So that's a macro level shift.
Exactly.
It reminds me of like a young adult leaving a completely sheltered childhood home.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Right. Because for years, everything is provided. Safety, food, zero effort.
Totally handled.
And then suddenly, they face the grueling realities of the real world. Bills, moral choices.
The safety net is just gone.
Yeah, exactly. So looking at the wording in the Revelation, where exactly is this transition triggered?
Have you ever noticed how a single letter can change the entire weight of a sequence of events?
A single letter.
Yeah. In Arabic, this starts with the letter E
Okay.
in the word fa'azalahuma, which translates to but caused them to slip.
Right.
That fa denotes direct sequence and causality. The command to not approach the tree wasn't just a physical barrier. It was the first test of freedom.
Because freedom needs an alternative.
Exactly. Freedom only has meaning with alternatives. The fa shows the direct result of interacting with this test, which basically summoned the opposing force.
It's like placing a giant red do not push button in the middle of a room.
Yes, the classic test.
I mean, the freedom to choose obedience only exists because the capacity to disobey is like right in front of you.
Right.
Without the button, you aren't choosing obedience, you just literally lack options. Precisely. But how does this opposing force actually trigger the wrong choice? Like, what's the mechanism?
Well, what if the greatest enemy you face actually possesses zero physical ability to harm you?
Wait, let me make sure I'm hearing this right.
Go ahead.
Are you saying the Revelation explicitly confirms Satan literally cannot force a human being to commit a sin?
I am absolutely saying that.
He has zero physical agency.
Zero. If we look at the root of azala, it means a foot sliding from a firm position. The Qur'an is highly precise. It does not say Satan forced or compelled them.
Oh, wow.
Because he has no coercive power. He only beautifies falsehood and plays on instincts until faith just loses its balance.
But that only works if there's a weakness, right?
Exactly. It only works if the human soul has a pre-existing susceptibility due to forgetfulness. He studies the psychological terrain, finds the weak point, and delivers a hidden strike.
So if there's no physical force, how do you convince someone living in absolute perfection that they need something else?
You have to ask, what are the two deepest, most hidden vulnerabilities inside the human mind?
I would guess fear and desire.
Spot on. The mechanism is whispering, waswasa. Satan came as a caring advisor. He exploited the innate human fear of annihilation and the desire for endless ownership.
So he flipped the script.
Completely. He presented the forbidden tree as the gate to eternity. The slip was a cognitive collapse. They believed in illusion and replaced trust in the divine promise with trust in a mirage.
It's basically the ultimate marketing scam.
Pretty much.
Like convincing a billionaire who has absolute security, perfect health, literally everything, that they are fundamentally incomplete without one specific, shiny new object.
That is exactly what it is. It creates a void.
Okay, but when the verse says they slipped out of it, what exactly is the pronoun referring to?
What happens to your body when you shift your weight too far away from your center of gravity?
You fall over.
Right. Linguistically, it refers to the tree, but the broader Quranic context points to paradise itself.
Oh, I see. Slipping begins by deviating from the center of innate balance. The tree was the test point. Paradise was the environment. And the slip fractured that safe relationship between the human and their environment.
It's like breaking trust in a perfect relationship.
How so?
Well, the physical environment remains exactly the same, right? The house hasn't changed.
Right, the walls are still there.
But the internal center of safety is entirely shattered. You've slipped out of the sanctuary.
That is a very profound way to look at it.
So what is the immediate consequence of this removal in the wording?
Notice that the wording doesn't say removed them from paradise.
What does it say?
It says remove them from that condition in which they had been.
Why phrase it like that?
Because it details a radical change in state. They were in absolute harmony, zero conflict, zero pressing material needs, no hunger, no thirst, no exposure.
So it's a shift in reality.
Exactly. It's a removal from a state of non-effort to severe effort, from absolute security to fear, from a pampered childhood to tested maturity.
Talk about a harsh reality check.
It's like graduating from a supportive, shielded university campus straight into a ruthless, highly competitive job market.
Sink or swim.
Yeah. But a lot of people wonder, was this sudden removal an act of divine vengeance? Like, was God just angry?
What if this removal wasn't a punishment at all, but simply the activation of a law they implicitly agreed to?
A law.
Yeah, the cosmic law of cause and effect. Actions have consequences. The state of absolute harmony had specific conditions adhering to God's limits.
Right.
Breaching those limits naturally nullified the conditions of staying. It made the exit an inevitable mechanism of the moral cosmic order.
It's like touching a hot stove.
Perfect example.
The burn isn't the stove taking personal revenge on you. It's just the natural law of heat reacting to skin.
Exactly. It's just cause and effect.
So then the law kicks in and the command shifts to go down. What's happening linguistically there?
Well, if there were only two humans involved in the story, why does the Qur'an suddenly use a plural command meant for three or more?
Oh, wait.
Yeah. The Arabic word ibitu, go down, shifts from the dual to the plural. The plural encompasses Adam, Eve, Satan, and all future offspring.
Hold on, this is incredibly profound. Are you saying the Arabic grammar itself proves that all of humanity and Satan were fundamentally bound together in this one moment?
Yes, completely. Humanity and their adversary are locked into this transition together. Descent isn't just a spatial drop. It's a descent in the level of existence to a completely new arena of action.
So how does this inseparable binding change the human experience going forward?
Can you ever truly test the skill of a runner if they're the only one on the track?
I guess not.
The human fate is now tied to the enemy. They are bound to the same earthly realm. It announces the start of the great battle of consciousness versus heedlessness.
So we literally can't do this without each other.
Right. Humans cannot experience Earth isolated from the satanic challenge, and Satan cannot practice seduction without humans.
It's like a grandmaster chess match. The board only has tension and meaning because both the light and dark pieces are locked onto the same 64 squares.
That's exactly it. They provide the necessary friction.
So what naturally happens when you combine limited earthly resources with inflamed instincts? What is the defining characteristic of this relationship?
The revelation unpacked the phrase, enemies to one another. This static nominal sentence establishes a sociological and psychological truth.
Enmity becomes inevitable.
Yes. The root of the word enemy relates to transgressing limits and aggressing on others' rights. With Satan stirring greed, enmity is an inevitable phenomenon on Earth.
We see that in any cutthroat corporate environment. Resources are scarce, and everyone is aggressively trying to climb the exact same ladder.
Exactly. It's built into the system.
But is this enmity strictly limited to the spiritual battle between humans and Satan?
Have you ever felt a brutal war raging entirely inside your own mind?
Oh, absolutely, all the time.
Right. So the enmity is comprehensive.
Right.
It includes human versus Satan, but also human versus human, like the upcoming story of Adam's sons.
Driven by jealousy.
Yes. And it even encompasses the internal contradictions within the human soul, insightful reason versus blind desire. This conflict is the engine of worldly development.
It's the daily struggle of wanting to sleep in comfortably versus the discipline of waking up to achieve a goal.
Exactly. It forces choices and maintains earthly balance.
So, with humanity thrust into this conflict, how does the revelation describe the actual environment? Earth.
Would a perfectly wise creator drop someone into a massive test without giving them the precise tools needed to survive it?
You would hope not.
The revelation introduces the phrase, a place of settlement and provision for a time. This acts as the divine constitution for human-Earth relations.
So Earth is prepared for us.
Earth is the incubator and the stage where the human role of vice currency will be acted out.
It's like arriving at a fully stocked, state-of-the-art laboratory where every single instrument you need is already waiting for you.
That's a great way to visualize it. Let's break down the word mustakar, or settlement.
Okay, what does that signify?
How often do you stop to appreciate the exact gravitational pull that keeps your feet firmly on the ground?
Honestly, never.
Right. The root implies firmness and calm after motion. Earth is perfectly equipped for life. Gravity, atmosphere, water cycles.
So it's not a punishment zone.
No. Settlement also means social and psychological stability. Building societies, families, laws, arts. Earth is a carefully prepared stage for growth.
We build generational homes in mass cities. We feel deeply secure in the predictable rhythms of the planet.
Exactly. We really settle in.
But we don't just exist here, we utilize things. How does the word mataa, meaning provision, redefine our relationship with our possessions?
What is the fundamental difference between the hammer you use to build a house and the house itself?
The hammer is just a tool.
Right. Mataa refers to temporary tools that perish. Food is eaten, clothes wear out. The Qur'an uses this word for all worldly adornments to plant a major truth.
Which is?
Earthly things are means, not final ends. It contrasts perfectly with Satan's fake promise of eternity.
Wait, so the revelation is explicitly telling us that everything we hustle for, status, money, luxury, is fundamentally designed to expire.
Exactly. It is a necessary provision, but we must consciously avoid becoming enslaved by things meant to perish.
That is huge. If all this provision is expiring, what is the ultimate boundary of this earthly experience?
What is the single thing that gives a deadline its terrifying, motivating power?
The fact that time runs out.
Exactly. The phrase ilahin, for a time, draws the strict temporal framework. The settlement and provision are not eternal.
It applies to everyone.
Yes, individually with our lifespan and collectively, as the planet itself has an expiration date known only to the Creator.
It's exactly like knowing a final exam is strictly 60 minutes long. It completely changes the intensity with which you approach the questions.
It does. And how does being acutely aware of this time limit impact human psychology?
I mean, it forces you to focus.
Right. If you knew you were going to live on Earth forever, would you ever feel the urgency to apologize to someone you hurt today?
Probably not. I'd just put it off forever.
The time limit gives worldly life absolute seriousness. The weight of time drives humans to achieve, to repent, and to invest temporary provision into an eternal fate.
It completely explains why procrastination only ends the night before a project is due. The hard limit forces decisive action.
It's a hidden call not to lean entirely on Earth.
So when we zoom out and look at all these pieces together, what complete image emerges from the verse?
Can you see how the entire trajectory of an entire human lifespan is compressed into a single sentence?
It's incredible.
It starts with human weakness to temptation, moves to the consequence of broken harmony, shifts to earthly conflicts, and ends with the exact rules governing our temporary enjoyment.
It's basically a perfectly structured architectural blueprint for navigating the human condition.
Exactly.
So how should this blueprint practically change the way we live our daily lives?
Are you treating a temporary transit station like it's your final permanent destination?
I see.
It calls for a massive paradigm shift. We must view Earth as a crossing point. We manage conflicts not by fighting over fleeting goods, but by utilizing reason, justice, and divine ethics.
Like a traveler on a long layover at an airport, you buy a coffee, you sit comfortably, but you don't start repainting the walls of the terminal.
Right, because you know you're leaving.
Exactly. But looking back at the very first mistake, the slip, does the revelation view this human vulnerability as a permanent curse?
What if making a mistake was the exact curriculum required for graduation?
Let me pause you there. The descent to Earth wasn't just a punishment, but an intentional training program to unlock human potential.
Yes. The slip proves the Quran doesn't ask us to be infallible angels. A fall can be followed by a rise. The subsequent verses show God teaching Adam repentance.
So it was necessary.
Humanity had to leave the static state to learn the mechanics of growth and redemption.
But this raises a massive question. If God knew Satan would cause the slip, why was the whispering permitted in the first place?
How can you ever claim to be truthful if you've never been presented with the opportunity to lie?
That is a very good point.
This is the principle of ibtila, or trial. A test cannot happen in a sterile environment. Satan's existence is a methodological necessity.
So we need the resistance.
Moral will needs resistance against seduction to grow, just like a muscle needs heavy weights. Without this, humans would remain static, untested beings.
You cannot test a ship's seaworthiness by leaving it completely safe in a dry dock forever. It must face the violent waves.
Exactly.
Does this mean the enmity and evil we witness in the world actually serve a structural purpose?
Is darkness an actual physical object, or is it just the chaotic space created by the absence of light?
The absence of light.
Right. Evil isn't an independent entity fighting God. It's the result of friction and collision of free wills over limited resources.
When people ignore the rules.
Exactly. Enmity happens when the moral compass is abandoned. Our mission is to transform this conflict-ridden settlement into an environment of peace through justice.
Think of traffic on a highway. It becomes chaotic and dangerous when people drive selfishly, but flows perfectly when everyone follows the established rules.
Perfect analogy.
Speaking of limited resources, how do the ideas of settlement and provision apply to our modern environmental and economic crises?
What happens when you treat a shared communal resource as your own personal, infinite piggy bank?
Everything collapses.
The revelation gives a unique economic and environmental philosophy. Earth's wealth is provision for all, not a monopoly.
Right.
Depleting resources greedily for temporary profit violates the very concept of settlement. Tyranny over nature hastens the ruin of our home before its destined time.
Look at catastrophic deforestation or overfishing. Chasing temporary provision destroys the permanent settlement for everyone else.
It really does.
Note how deeply connected these words are. How do they tie together into one cohesive framework?
Have you ever looked closely at a massive woven tapestry and realized how pulling just one thread unravels the entire image?
Oh, definitely.
Let's summarize the conceptual network. Slip equals fragility. Removed equals responsibility. Go down equals trial arena. Enemy equals evolutionary conflict.
Okay.
Settlement equals divine care. Provision equals limited utility. For a time equals awareness of destiny.
It represents a flawless ecosystem of meaning. Changing or removing even a single word would collapse the entire philosophy.
It really would.
So what do these interconnected concepts ultimately tell us about our deepest human questions?
Who are we, why are we here, and where exactly are we going?
Yeah, the big ones.
We are free, fallible beings tasked with managing the earth. We live in a complex world of temporary provision and necessary conflict.
And our destiny.
It depends entirely on how we invest our limited time to purify ourselves.
It provides an exact job description and a strict timeline for every single human being's time on Earth.
It does.
So how can you, listening right now, take this from an intellectual exercise into something actively lived today?
Are you just passively reading the words, or are you finally letting the words read you?
I love that.
We must ask ourselves daily, what are our slips? How does the opponent sneak into our awareness? Are we removing ourselves from inner peace by bad choices? We must constantly rearrange our priorities.
It's about using the verse as a daily, practical diagnostic check for your own mental and spiritual health.
Precisely.
As the reflection wraps up, how do we summarize the ultimate purpose of this verse?
What if this single verse is actually the complete map for the entire journey of human consciousness?
A map for everything.
The revelation is a mirror across time. It maps the journey from paradise through the earthly station and the path back. The only difference between eternal misery and great triumph is adherence to the compass of revelation while navigating the sea of fleeting provision.
It acts as the ultimate North Star for navigating the turbulent, unpredictable waters of life. Adam, thank you so much for this incredibly detailed and logical explanation of the verse.
My pleasure.
To summarize for you listening, our inevitable slips do not define us. They are opportunities for growth. The world is a perfectly calibrated but temporary testing ground, and the conflicts we face are the exact resistance we need to build our moral strength.
Absolutely.
So I want to leave you with this question. If the earth is merely a temporary settlement filled with fleeting provision, what eternal things are you building today that will actually outlast it? Thank you for listening to Insights. That's it for this episode of Insights. If you found this reflection helpful, follow the show and join us next time as we continue verse by verse in the Quran. Until then, take one idea from this verse into your day.